It is starting to get that done. I've got some participants back in the room. I've got Ainsley. I've got Jeff. I imagine I might have PH as an attendee. I might have to go and grab him out and make him a. Guys, we've got screens. Guys, we've got screens.
Modern technology. Where will this stop? You know.
Now I'm going to jump out of YouTube, but what I can see there, I'll go to that on another screen. I'll get rid of this. Right, the question I have for you guys, of course, is can you guys hear me? It looks like you can see me. I understand you guys can hear me. The question is, can the team talk amongst ourselves? Paul Hutton, can you see me? Jeff Ainsley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can hear you, Paul. Yep.
Hey, Paikokariki Beach. What's the on the green screen?
You guys lost me again?
No.
No.
No, you're there. I can see and hear you.
I wonder if that's having an impact. Sorry, guys. Changing computers. I'll put this on. Guys, can you hear me okay?
Still can.
Hey, that's better. I can hear you guys as well. Hey, here we go.
5-second delay.
Wow. Guys, we're up and running. We're on YouTube. Here we go. We're on Zoom. God, it's great to be back. I have changed from my desktop to my laptop, which gives me a camera as well, so you guys can see me. I'll block that at some stage because you don't need to see me, guys. I'm doing a typical.
Hey, hang on, mate. Paikokariki. Is that Paikokariki Beach behind you?
Yeah, mate. That's the view from the corner. Yeah, that's yeah.
So are you on green screen?
No, mate. You don't have to do it. No, I bought a green screen and it didn't quite fit. I don't want to do too much. So we got to get into this. I bought a green screen. It didn't quite fit in the camera. You can zoom your camera on your computer, but when you go to zoom, it unzooms your camera. Quite ironically, you can't zoom on Zoom. Somebody's weak. You can't zoom on Zoom. I don't really understand that, but then all of a sudden, I just come up with an option to do this without green screen. So that's just a photo the neighbour took. I asked him for the photo, and it's mine. And I think it actually comes through okay. It was all
be very careful about the photos you put on there, mate.
I don't have the kind of photos you have, Jeff. Rightio, guys.
Boys.
Without further ado, because it feels like there's been a lot of ado, I'm going to post a few messages saying they're up and running. We're going to get into this. Nice to have you guys. Nice sunset. Brilliant, guys. Please you like it. Look, I've got to say this, guys. It's New Zealand is just a great place to live, and I love the travel. I love seeing the world, but boy, I do love coming back here. We're pretty lucky. But what I'm going to do right now is just a novel thought for a show like this. Perhaps now we could go to Paul Hutton and talk about the market. PH, you ready to go?
I am, Paul, and
are you going to share screen as well?
Well, I want to share screen, and
sorry, yeah.
I can't see your screen on Zoom. All I can see is that you're sharing your screen. So I've opened up YouTube, and so I can watch the screen delayed on YouTube and just kind of have some faith that the whole thing is going to work.
Let's have you share your screen and see what happens, PH, because that's really what's important here. We need to see your screen.
Okay, so it does say for me host disabled participant screen sharing, so I'm still not able to do that.
Just hang on, I'll be able to sort that out for you. Where was it? It wasn't there. Okay, I'm not going to muck around with that because I'm just going to leave that doing that. Share participants, panelists, Paul Hutton. More. I'm going to go back and see if I can make you a co-host, PH. You know, you are
awesome. Okay,
you got it.
Yeah, I've got it. So,
guys, it's taken us for nearly 30 minutes. I really appreciate your patience. And I promise you guys, we use Zoom a lot. This is not just us being incompetent. This is a bit different today. We'll have it sorted out perfectly next week. We do appreciate your patience. PH, if you can run us through the market, I'm going to turn my camera off for a few minutes and just get on with telling people we're back. Okay?
Awesome. Okay. So here we go. Look, I've picked out a couple of currency pairs to show you all and talk about this week. It's great to be on this show. This is my first time being on the show as a panelist. Yeah, so it's awesome. It's awesome to be here amongst everyone else. I'm still waiting for the screen to be updated on YouTube. So I'm not exactly sure whether you can see my screen. I'm looking at the Aussie US dollar weekly chart. Can somebody let me know that you can
Can't
see
yet,
my
mate.
screen? All right.
Look, let's try a couple of other things. Let me just see if I can jump back into here, and I'm going to go. No, I'm going to try and get in from there. I'm going to stop sharing PH and see if you can share. Can you share from there? You got it again? It is a bit old-fashioned the way I'm doing some of this stuff.
Let me try this again. According to Zoom, I'm sharing. But I can't see my screen that I'm sharing. I can't see that I'm sharing my screen.
I cannot see it either, PH.
Mm.
Let me, guys, can you see Paul Hutton's screen? Please let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to just jump back and.
No.
No.
Okay, so let me just see. Hold on. Here we go. I'll go there. Try again now, PH.
Okay. All right, sharing.
I've made some changes to the setting, which seems to have worked this time. But I cannot see anyone else's screen apart from mine. Okay, look, I am running out of frustration with this for you guys. What I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to start showing. I'm presuming you guys can see my screen at the moment.
Yes, Paul, we can.
Okay, so PH, you tell me which chart you want. I'll bring it up. Can someone check that we're live on YouTube and this is going out okay? And in a minute, both Jeff and Ainsley, can one of you try and share your screen and see if we can get some share screening or not during this time? Okay, PH, what are we on?
Cheers, Paul. Can you go to the Aussie US dollar chart?
The Aussie US dollar chart. There we go.
Yep. Okay. Now I'm not seeing the screen on Zoom, but I'm seeing it on YouTube. And if you can just choose the weekly time frame on the Aussie US dollar. Now on the Aussie US dollar, on the weekly time frame, there's a really important horizontal level, which was support and has now become resistance, and that level is 65. Yep, 65.00. And look, it's taken its time, but I think the buying is done here on the Aussie versus the US dollar. We had a high test bar a couple of weeks ago. Then we had a more or less an inside bar, which was pretty bullish, but we've got pretty much the opposite effect now on the weekly chart. And it looks to me like that downside potential has increased in terms of probability. And if we go to the daily chart, what I see on the daily chart is two nice rejections of that 65 horizontal level, and because those rejections are both pretty much at the same level, which is about 65.50, it's created a potential double top situation. Yeah. Now I say potential double top because there is a neckline, but it hasn't been broken yet. So once that neckline is broken, I'll have a little bit more confidence that that we've got it's a confirmed double top there. So in order for me to confirm that, I really need the 64 level on the Aussie US dollar to be broken. So that's the Aussie, and I also want to talk about the New Zealand US dollar as well. So if we can go and take a look at the New Zealand dollar weekly chart, and there's a really important horizontal level on the Kiwi US dollar chart, which is at 60.00. By the way, I'm a big fan of these psychological levels, and I look at them. I look at them every week, every weekend, on the weekly charts and on the daily charts. And this 60 level, well and truly broken now, with a bearish engulfing bar. And so you can see there's some really good downside potential here on the New Zealand dollar as well. And if we go to the daily chart, on the daily chart for the New Zealand US dollar, there was a wedge. There was a wedge pattern, and a wedge pattern is higher highs and higher lows, but it's not symmetrical like a channel. And I don't know, Paul, if you can just zoom out there on the daily. The wedge pattern is a little bit more obvious when we look at it, maybe from a zoomed out perspective. Yeah. So we've got higher highs and higher lows over the last, over the last 1.5 months, and the higher highs are just not as powerful as the higher lows. Yep. So it's what we call an ascending wedge, and in fact, price has broken out of this ascending wedge, which is really great, because it should. That's what the probabilities of chart patterns tell us that it should do, and it's also broken this 60 level. So on the Kiwi, I'm actually waiting for a retest of the 60 level, and if that happens, then I'll be looking for short trading possibilities there, in line with my strategy, the Wave Rider, because it will give me setups on that. And I'm actually backing the New Zealand dollar versus the Aussie dollar. I like the Aussie dollar short, but I like the New Zealand dollar short possibilities even more. And if I can just ask you to Paul to go to one more chart, that will be the Aussie Kiwi, the Australian dollar versus the New Zealand dollar. Now, I don't trade the Aussie Kiwi currency cross as a rule, but I do keep track of it as just as an indicator of which currency is outperforming which currency, and it's a bit different to sport, because when we play rugby, when the Wallabies and the All Blacks play rugby with each other, the Wallabies usually get smashed, and the All Blacks are usually winning. But in this chart at the moment, if this was a rugby game,
that's a very polite use of the word usual.
Watch it.
Almost always.
It's actually more like
Almost
they
always,
play with
yeah.
us. We don't play with them, mate. Frankly.
Yeah.
That's right, Jeff.
But this chart represents the opposite of what normally happens in rugby games, which is the Aussie currency is just outperforming the New Zealand currency. And I actually have a weekly chart of this, which shows a significant trend line break to the upside. So I'm anticipating that the Australian dollar will continue to outperform. So if I'm going to go short, yes, I like the Aussie as a short, but I like the New Zealand dollar even more as a short. And this trend line, yeah, you've got to zoom out a little bit to see it, but there it is. That's the one, Paul. So just if you bring it down actually to the third point.
What are you looking for there?
Yeah, there's that trend line, but there's also another trend line that I've got drawn through that one there. So we've broken that trend line, and look, the next upside target, according to this chart, is going to be the higher trend line, which is plenty of room to move. But if the Aussie and the Kiwi are both going to head lower versus the US dollar, I think the potential momentum, that's the one. And if you pull it down to the last highest high, right, it's going to run through a couple of those. It's going to run through a couple of those other highs, this is taking a leaf out of Jeff's book. Pip perfect touches and one violation of that. If that quotes you accurately, Jeff.
Mate, I've got a smile from ear to ear.
And that's the trend line that I've been looking at. So, and again, I'm not going to trade the Aussie Kiwi long. I'm going to trade either or both of the Aussie US dollar, Kiwi US dollar short, because Donald Trump came out on Thursday and tweeted that he loves a strong US dollar. That's not why I'm going to trade. I'm not going to trade because Donald Trump tweeted, but I was just really happy about that, because a long time ago, Paul and I had a conversation about trading, or a coaching session about trading, and I was really frustrated because Donald Trump had tweeted something and my stop losses had got hit, and Paul said to me, there's going to be a day when Donald Trump tweets something and you're going to be really happy about it. And that happened on Thursday. So, Paul, you were right. You were right.
Yeah. Everyone gets right. Everyone gets to be right occasionally.
Yeah. So look, these are the main charts that I really wanted to look at today and share with everybody. So I hope that you've seen some interesting setups on those charts for yourselves, perhaps.
So PH, give us a usability of this. So we've had a look at the Aussie, we've had a look at the Kiwi, and we've had a look at the Aussie Kiwi. Let me just do a little summary of this. You long or short on the Kiwi?
I'll be. I currently am not short, but I'll be looking for shorts.
Sorry, bias. Your bias is short.
My bias is short. Absolutely, yeah.
Are you using that as a trend line, or you did talk at one?
Oh yeah, there's a break of there's that one, and I'm more interested in the horizontal level at 60.
Yep.
If we manage to get a retest of that level, that's going to be my ideal, my best case scenario for trading the Kiwi short. But if we don't get a return to 60, then I'll be looking for intraday short trades on the New Zealand US dollar.
Fantastic. So Kiwi, we are short. Aussie, we are also short, right?
Yes, definitely, but probably for me at lower risk.
Yep. And here's our Aussie charts. Let me just move some of this stuff away from here. Sorry, mate, it's a bit tough doing this stuff on other people's charts. Okay. And Aussie, New Zealand, you are long, PH. Is that right?
No, I'm just using it as a cross reference.
What else you got for us, PH? What else is worth having a look at this week?
Well, okay, so let me share one.
Ainsley will talk gold and oil with us. I don't want to shorten this show up just because we had a bit of a late start. I want to give them great value today.
Okay.
Ainsley will talk about oil and gold, and Jeff will talk about the stuff that's in ranges. So what's trending we can have a look at?
Okay, well, if you can open up one more chart, which is the Euro Pound. And on the Euro Pound, on the daily chart, my analysis of charts has very few indicators on it. Okay, so I'm looking at horizontal levels, I'm looking at trend lines, and I also do keep an eye on the 200-day moving average. And that's perfect, Paul, because you've just got the 200-day moving average in there. The pivots, etc. I'm not using necessarily for analysis, more for trading setups. But this analysis tells me that finally we've bounced off the 200-day moving average, and on Friday we broke out of the consolidation and we've made a higher high. So the level that I really like on the Euro Pound is 88. Pretty much around 88.55 or 88.55, and if price manages to get back to that level, and please draw a box there. That's fantastic. If price manages to get back to that level of around about 88.55, I'll be looking for price action to make a higher low and potentially trade the retest of that level long. And my target is 90. Yeah, so it's not something like the Aussie and the Kiwi could just make massive moves. I imagine this currency pair. Um, what it's telling me is that the euro is likely to outperform the pound on shorter term time frames, and I think the downside of the pound itself, the pound against the US dollar, is done because it's pretty much overextended, and the euro is just a mess. I'm not interested in trading the euro US dollar at all for the time being, because can make no sense of it. But I do see that the euro versus the pound could be a nice potential setup to get about 150 pips trade a profit out of that. So that's the other thing I'm keeping an eye on this week.
Cheers, PH. Thank you very much for that. That is fantastic. Thank you. Okay, let's try and hear from Ainsley next. Ainsley, Oil and Gold.
Hi,
Can you
Paul.
see if you can share screen? Or you want me to do your screen for you?
Look, if you can, we do our normal thing. Let's
Yeah.
have a look at what was on the euro pound. Let's have a look at
Oh.
the pound US dollar. Second one from the top, because I've had a lot of fun on that this week. Actually, I was in it last week and sucked a bit of air as it popped up and down and moved around, but it took a while for the momentum to get going. But Mark Carney finally came out and said earlier this week that the British economy is just not going to be looking good. That does not have a good outlook for the next couple of years. Added to that, the Brexit talks. Added to that is the coronavirus situation that they've got going over there. And it finally started to really take off at the last half of the week. Pile all that together, all that fabulous news for the currency, and whilst the euro's a mess and the euro has really chopped around, I've been able to ride that one down, especially after the Fed on, what was it, Thursday morning, lost track of the time. So that really put a lot of pressure. The US dollar stronger, the pound just a bit of a basket case, and away it went. So, with the euro pound going up, I think you can look at its cousin, the pound Swissy, and it went down. But I was trading the pound because I prefer to stick to the majors with just with liquidity and volatility and volume and things like that. So that tends to be my preference. I'm also looking at the Aussie dollar short.
Sorry, Ainsley, what got you into the pound short in the first place?
Just the setup. If you go down to a 4-hourly, I was looking on a 4-hourly chart, and I went in 124. So bounce off the there it is. Hello, bounce off the 200, and then pulled down, and the weekly pivot was cut, and somewhere in there, I think I went, go back a bit, go back to the previous week. Yeah, back of that, no, down, bring your arrow down. Right, yes, there, 124, at the bottom of that level of consolidation. It went down and then it came back up again. It didn't hit my stop, which was above that area of consolidation where your crosshairs are. And then I've stayed in it and just brought my stop down and finally had a beautiful tank. And we had during the course of the day, we had a pullback and then an extended bar and then a pullback and extended bar and a beautiful extension and just continual cascading on Friday night. So it's been a nice trade. I'm up 300 pips on that one.
Brilliant. Okay.
So that's where it got. Like I said, it chopped around there for quite a bit, but the 200 moving average was a nice little indicator after a consolidation, after it didn't break the monthly pivot. All that consolidated area didn't go back up above the monthly pivot, did it? Just kept trying to and kept getting rejected, and then it finally it broke to the downside, came back and retested, and then it went down. So it was a good setup, and it went in. So the technicals combined with the fundamentals gave me I just kept in it. Now, looking at my MACD and my ADX, they're all telling me to stay in the trade. So that was a good trade I had this week. Whether it will continue, I'll expect it to retrace. It's quite extended now. There'll be a retracement, but I might might pop out of that now because I'm up 300 pips, and that's good money in the bank, frank. So the Aussie dollar is also, I'm on board with that. Fundamentally, it's really chopped around this week, but we had huge numbers, huge unemployment numbers. It was 6.2%. Everybody was expecting up around 8-9%, and we just didn't get it. And I'll say that in a very qualified manner, because we do expect a lot
There's more coming.
more to come. Obviously, the JobKeeper.
Yeah, but the number's still there, Ainsley, and I'm so glad you pointed that out, because everyone's saying that's a bad. How can that be a bad number? Are you kidding?
It's better than they expected.
That's exceptional. It's not better. It's exceptional in this current environment. I mean, come on, let's call a spade a spade. That's amazing.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a bit of
Hold
creative
on.
accounting.
Sorry, the unemployment numbers that came out, they were the numbers for when?
For
So-
April.
April,
Okay.
but
Okay.
like I said, and I've touched on this before, Jeff, and that is the government initiated a JobKeeper allowance, and that meant that under the circumstances during the pandemic, it meant that employers would be given $1,500 a fortnight per employee they kept on. Okay, so
Yeah, even people who work 1 hour a week and get like $10.50 a week get $1,500 a fortnight now. The dipsticks.
yeah, now they're looking at easing that back off as well, but it was
About
just to
time.
get through. Yeah, that's true.
You know,
But
you're paying that way, don't you, Ainsley?
Hey, Jeffrey, come on, let's move along. Calm down, buddy.
Anyway, creative accountants that there are out there, we have now had restrictions lifted this weekend. So we're at stage 2, aren't we? They're still easing it off, but slowly, it's coming back into the land of the living, I guess. So the kids go back to school next week. Can you hear the excitement in my voice? It's like,
I can.
it's just like, oh my God, I want my life back.
Let me give you a super quick rundown on the Aussie employment numbers. They're really interesting. Unemployment rate 6.2, forecast 8.3. So it's way better
That's
than
right.
the forecast, right?
Yep.
Actual figures. Unemployment change minus 594. So employment change. So there's another 594,000 unemployed. Forecast 575. So there's 20,000 more people unemployed than they forecast, and the rate hasn't changed. Something in those numbers is weird. It's I would suggest you there's something in, if you're talking about that as an end of April rate, which employment change month on month, I imagine that it'll be pretty lagged, Jeff. By now,
Look, let's see what happens at May with the adjusted figures.
I said that last month, though. I said coming into April, I think the number was 5.4. I can't quite recall, and I haven't got the chart in front of me. Might have been 5.3 actually, and I said it'll be double that for the April figure.
Everybody expects it to be up around 10.
But hold on. The question is, in the background, what people are trying to work out is, first of all, there's more people being made unemployed there's more people unemployed than they expect. In both our countries now, those numbers are hidden because, if your wife's got a job, you can't get unemployment, so you don't show up in the figures. So we know the numbers are bullshit. But I think, I was going to say something about this. What people are trying to work out is what happens when job seeker finishes.
Yes.
So
Who knows?
if they're giving people who are employing people 5 hours a week, $1,500 a week to keep them, then there's going to be a lot of unemployment when that subsidy runs away.
To actually keep them in their unemployment. That's the whole funny part about it.
Yeah.
The dudes who are getting unemployment benefits suddenly got double their money. They must be just going, wow.
Actually, yeah, Jeff. We're a bit late starting, but there's a reason for that stuff. And I think we talked about this last week, and I don't like using these words, but I'm going to use these words. One of the things that happens in real downturns if you give wealthy people money, they save it because they're scared of the future. And if you give poor people money, they spend it because they need it.
Yeah, I know.
So what
you're
they're
going.
trying to do is give people with little money, so they'll put it into the economy, and you know, it's sound economics. There's no question that it's sound economics. Whether it's sort of whether that becomes productive money long term in your country is another matter, but let's not get into that too badly. So Ainsley, you are.
I won't say anymore.
You're short the pound. You're short the Aussie. What about some oil and gold for us?
Let's go have a look at gold.
I knew you were going there first.
I love my gold.
I did enjoy the phone call
just-
earlier on today and the discussion around gold. You know, is this going to go? Is this just going to take off and get out of here? Or if
All
it
right, can we do a
reverses,
box?
is it dead?
Yeah.
You know?
Let's do a box around the daily.
So I certainly can't do a box around that monthly, I'll tell you that.
It's flicked around a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's consolidated, gone sideways. And I went in initially around 1500, down at the bottom of that the big dip down in March. And then I added another position at 1675 at the bottom of that second takedown at the beginning on the 1st of May. That low test bar. Yeah. So I went in there on a second position. Now, we've got two things. The seasonals, as you know, I love to follow my seasonals, are screaming at me to sell in May and go away. And I can't, because my technicals are saying, hold the phone. So what we've got here is a strong upward move on a breakout of the box of the range. There we go, Jeff. I've been listening. Breakout of the range. Now that it'll happen, one of two things will happen. It'll either come screaming back in and go down to the other side of that box, or if we have a close above 1750 tomorrow, because it's already poked its head above 1750 last week on Friday night. If it continues above that and we have a close, I think it's all bets are off, and the strength of gold being a safe haven again is going to ramp it up. Now, a lot of the banks and a lot of the analysts really do believe that gold is holding firm and it's going to keep going. So
interesting, Nancy, isn't it? Because gold is different right now, right? Because
completely
it is
different.
unusual
Not correlated
to see.
to anything.
Well, and it's unusual to see gold rally while the US dollar rallies, because gold is valued in US dollars.
Yep.
So if gold's rallying while the US dollar is rallying, so it's going up against something else that's going up, it's valued, and that suggests that gold is actually going up very quickly. And for instance, the Euro gold chart would look very different, and gold would look dominant on that kind of chart. So it's unusual to see gold go up when the euro dollar's going up. When the dollar's going up.
Yeah, but I think you've got a few underlying things, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And this is when, say, for a lot of the struggling economies, we had a situation where the Venezuelan government, who got sanctions against them from the US government, needed help with their refineries, being a major oil pumping country. They needed some help with their refineries and a few other bits and pieces, and they were told no, they wouldn't get any help, and it was just too bad. So they turned to Iran, and Iran offered to help them. They couldn't pay Iran in cash, but they can't pay. The government obviously can't use Bitcoin. They paid them in 9 ton of gold. Iran sent the planes, filled the planes up, and shipped the gold back to Iran. So that was a form of payment that obviously was quite acceptable. Whether that some of the other countries, that some of the governments that are hoarding gold can use that as another currency to get themselves out of trouble, to keep their economy afloat, who knows? But it certainly lends strength to what has happened here. I mean, 9 ton of gold isn't to be sneezed at either. It's about 500 million. So you've got
two things going on in the world that I feel frustrated to be left out on. So central banks, they don't print money. They literally just go to a computer and type it in and give it to themselves. And no one's ever let me do that, right?
Or
how much fun would that
Monopoly.
be? Or someone sends you a plane load of gold. No one has ever sent me a plane load of gold. I mean, I feel left out. I feel badly left out.
How do you like
so
that?
Ainsley, one of the things we feel about gold here is that get a retest to the top of this range and take off, and we're looking for it to push up quite quickly, and failure, and we're back at monthly pivot pretty quickly, and below monthly pivot we could be
And
heading
then
down
down.
quite quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we think
Yeah.
it's going to be with watching. And
Worth watching. I'm still in
I
it,
might-
but I'll be moving I'll be moving those stops up and covering those positions like you would not believe. I mean, I did all right, as you know, in gold December, January, but I'm 3/4 of the way there on this trade too. So
I'm just going through my mail. It's sitting next to where I trade. And not only do I not have a machine that lets me print my own bank statement or a plane full of gold, but I reckon that's likely to be, that's my accounts, a bill, someone trying to sell me something, another bill,
no money.
someone trying to sell them another bill. Oh, this is probably a speeding ticket. I don't quite know what it is. But really, there's nothing like a plane load of gold here. Nothing like it at all. Back
It's
to you, Angie. So
amazing.
we're looking for volatility in gold. Can I ask you something? Do we
Yep.
need, as an organisation, just to leave oil alone for a little while and get our people out of it?
Let's have a look at WTI.
Are you sure we want to have a look at WTI?
No, I'm all right with WTI because I can
Okay.
tell you what's happening with WTI because it's one that I'm going to be looking at a little more. I told you it was broken. Down. There it is. Right. Getting over. Hello. Sure. So
Oh, me? Oh, between you and Jeff, what am I doing on YouTube? Honestly. So I'll just blow this up a little bit for you, eh? Here we go.
Yeah. because you
You
have
can make
to.
that. You can make that sound much better, Ainsley. SH1T works every time.
Oh, someone sent us an email the other day with that in it, Jeff, and I thought I've been speaking. Honestly, someone's been listening to you far too much. Honestly, it's H1T. My gosh.
Okay, so this is, as
Anyway,
we said,
yep.
for oil, it's broken. It's a
Yep.
little broken market, isn't it? Poor little bunny. But this week, what we've got is an easing of the storage of the capacity issue. Two, OPEC are now still, we talked about the 10 million barrels, well, it's 9.7 million barrels that they finally agreed to, which they all thought was a huge amount, but it was too little, too late. And then we saw that huge, with everything else, a huge decline. But with oil, those cuts of 9.7 million had been agreed to for May and June, and then it was meant to drop back to 7.7 million from June to December.
Guys,
Now,
have the rest of you lost sound? Can you please let me know if you can hear us, please? We've got a message from one person saying you've lost sound. To be honest, with some of the stuff we're talking today, it's not the worst thing in the world. Let me have a look on YouTube. Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks, Mike. Now, okay.
Cooked books. Thanks, Alex. That's brilliant. Oh, great. Yeah, Dominic, you can hear us on YouTube. If they can hear us on YouTube, yeah, guys on YouTube. Guys, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, if you like the show, then like the page, like the channel. Roy, nice, mate. How you doing? Excellent. Lots of guys saying they can hear us. Yep, everyone's saying they can hear us. That's fantastic. Cheers, guys. Thanks for that. So, look,
So
I'm going to talk
just-
about gold on Wednesday in my piece. I do this weekly thing at the moment where I talk to everyone about this, but I might talk about oil as well. I really like this pattern, Ainsley. You tell me what you think is going to happen with oil, and then I'll talk a bit about the pattern, eh?
Okay, so what we've got here, it almost looks like a dead cat bounce. And I'm not being smart, it's actually what it's called. But in this last week, what we've seen is, and if you go down to a 4-hourly chart, you'll actually see it, there we go. Actually looks normal there, doesn't it?
Actually, it really does, doesn't it?
However, the reality is, we had the crude oil inventories and they were quite respectable, and they jumped up and they came back down again because they jumped up on the news that everybody's stuck to their quotas, basically. Like I said, the storage capacity has eased off because people have, the producers have cut. They're now talking to extend the cuts. I would imagine that would be a very short conversation with the producers because they probably can see that's a good idea. It's a simple yes or no. And those cuts will stay in place until the end of the year. Countries are starting to open up. In between that time, we've had a lot of countries stockpiling and things are slowly starting to wind up. I mean, I read read this morning that Italy is going all systems go. They're opening up from June 3rd. We had I don't know if you saw this, Jeff, but Emirates are starting to fly out of Melbourne and Sydney from the 21st of May to Dubai.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, good place
Yeah.
to fly out of, I've got to say.
Melbourne. Ooh.
Either one.
Yeah, but they've got connections.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was
Yeah,
surprised.
connections to other countries as well. And I mean, seriously, there are countries that you really won't want to go to. And I'm quite safe here in my cocoon over here, and just sending the kids down the road to school. That's fine with me. But what we've got here is, with oil, like I said, things are starting to crank back up again. Countries like China have been stockpiling like nobody's business. Storage capacity eased off. And then we've got this, just look at the chart on the 4 hourly and just look at how it's just bouncing off WR2. It's coming back up very, very slowly. Bounce, bounce. We've got higher highs, we've got higher lows. Now, if we have a second wave of coronavirus, I reckon we'll see that just go plummeting. But this is
not only that, to be fair, if we get a second run.
Yeah, look, I think what we've got here, and I'm not in oil at the moment at all. I want to see a bit more, and I want to wait until the futures contracts expire at the end of next week. So it's a whole new ball game after that. But let's just see what's going on. There's no fundamentals except for a recovery. Look, oil's in rehab at the moment, basically. It's recovering. We need a few more of those fundamentals to be strong and to be solid, and that will get it through and get it straight to start heading back up again. But at the moment,
Ainsley, I really like, I don't know what, there'll be a term for them. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to, I really like seeing ranges with a bar that commands them. Maybe command is the wrong expression, but I really love this bar. This bar for me tells me everything I need to know. You get a break above this bar here and I want to play long, and you get a break below this bar here and I don't want to play at all. It's all kinds of trouble. And for me, I love when you get a decisive bar and it ranges inside the decisive bar. For me, probably not a game I'm going to play until we do see a break of the high of this. But I might have a crack at taking it up to the top of the bar. I might play that game at some point if I find a nice entry. But I do like this particular pattern when you get it all the time when you get these sort of command bars, and then price sort of stays within the range of the bar, and when it breaks, you get some pretty good news.
That's a month, right? A whole month inside that bar.
There's one there. Get the daily bar, ranges inside the bar, breaks out. There's another one there. Closes inside, sits inside the range. This one false breaks first, but then goes the other way. But you see this quite a lot where you get this bar at the start of range, and that bar can be really important to what happens following.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is you can see the market just is dead. Now, if you're doing this, I wouldn't be trading in daily. I'd be looking down 4 hourly chart for, and just in and out if that's what you're going to do. But that's a risky thing to do, and there is no strategy that ATW would be offering for that. That is just technical chart trading. And to be quite honest, I've stayed out of that. I've got my gold, I've got my pound, I've got my Aussie short. I'm okay at the moment. I've got enough dangling in the market. It was quite a nice week last week. So I don't need to go and play games with oil at the moment until it strengthens a bit more. So that's me for the week.
Cheers, Ainsley. Thank you very much. Hope you do have a good week ahead. We'll talk to you on Sunday next week. We'll be back in the show with you and Jeff and me. And I haven't decided yet, Ainsley or Chloe. Put it in the box, guys. Who do you want to have come and talk to you next week? Would you like to have Ainsley or Chloe? We'll be having, generally speaking, we'll be having Julian on the second week of the month and Justin on, Ash on the fourth week of the month. This month we've got 5 weeks, so we're going to have Ash on month 5. It's his daughter's birthday on week 4, So I will have either Orlando or Chloe in next week to do some analysis. Let me know who you want, and we will try and get them sorted out for you guys. Roy, I hope that helped you with your oil views. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks for those that have liked the show on YouTube. Jeff, let's talk technicals, eh?
Why not? What a good subject.
Well, it
Okay.
is a good subject, isn't it? That's what we're here for, really. I mean, we do all this other stuff, but technical trading is a fair chunk of it, right?
Well, for good reason, mate. Of course, it's front and center.
Yeah, there's front and center, mate. Now, let me. Am I actually? I'm gonna. Gosh.
I don't know. Can
We've
you
got
see my screen?
We've got your screen. So we've got your screen without your charts. We've got your sort of basic start screen. You know, the one with the food
Okay.
and drink and health and fitness. There we go. There we go, mate. I've got your, there you go. I've got your chart.
Euro dollar.
Euro dollar.
Okay, happy days. I've got to say, last week was incredibly frustrating. I was a massive Aussie bear, but just couldn't find my way into the market at all. Well, I did, I've got to say, a couple of times. But at the end of the day, I've got to say, it was God defend New Zealand when it came to the crunch, mate. And that finished up the week very, very nicely. But Aussie just couldn't get a handle on it in terms of entries, but we'll get there in a sec. So we're always talking technicals and, for me, market structures, and euro dollar is one of those that is in dead man's land or no man's land, as I like to say. And Paul, you probably relate to this, the land of nobody, which is once I used to hear that quite often. But that's pretty much where we are, frankly. And market structure here is telling me exactly that. If you go to the big picture, whoa, hang on, I've just lost control. Some would say that happened many years ago, but there we go. There's the structure that we've been following for the longest time. And there we saw coronavirus. If you need to go back and look at history, and a lot of us will down the track, they'll notice that candle and so they'll say coronavirus instantly, like when the euro was decoupled to the Swissy, from the Swissy. And we'll go back to that time in I think it was the 1st of January 2015, and you'll see a mark on your chart that will recognize that particular point in time. This is exactly one of those, and that monthly chart tells you exactly when coronavirus hit the market, and the market just had no idea what to do, frankly. That's kind of poignant as far as I can see, because we went both from the bottom to the top and then from the top to the bottom in the whole period of 1 month. Since that time, if you look at this chart, gone into a bit of consolidation. But if you narrow that down a little bit, let's go to the daily chart and go a little bit wider. There, you can see that we've had equal lows and lower highs pretty much for the duration of that time. The question mark, of course, is where do we go from here? And if you want to trade this, what do you do next? I really don't have an answer at this moment, but I clearly see the market structure, and there's in my mind, a clear descending triangle here and coming off these lower highs and equal lows. So I'm looking for this to go here next to the bottom of that range. I have to explain this all the time, because a range to me is a level on a chart where we go from the top to the bottom, whether that's horizontal, whether it's encapsulated by a downward channel, or whether it's
So a channel is a variation on a range for you.
Yes. Yeah. If we're going from top to bottom, then to me, that's a range. And if we're going inside a triangle, as we've got on the chart now, that's also a range. So if we're going from top to bottom, we didn't quite make the top here, but we went straight back to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom. And now we're pinching out into this really unknown zone, to be fair, but it gives us opportunities. And when we see the bottom of the range, the very clear thing that we need to look for next is what happens if we go to here. And if we go to here, we'll get a signal, and generally that's going to be by a higher low if we're coming off the bottom. And if we're coming off the top, that's generally going to be with a lower high. But we also get these little fake outs, which are probably better than anything. And if we go to the 4-hour chart, we can see that quite clearly where we've come above the range. So we're broken out essentially. And as we all should know, breakouts are far less frequent than not. So what we're looking for straight away, if we come back inside that range, as I call it, then we're looking for a lower high to trade it back to the bottom, and so on and so forth, from the bottom to the top. So this is exactly the system that I use every single day of my trading life. And when I bring that into today, what I see is we've come off the bottom, we haven't come off the top, and now we've gone into an area where we really can't trade because we're really not sure whether we're coming off the top or off the bottom. So we need to go to one of these zones, if you like. We need to go to the bottom or we need to go to the top. And when we do, we're either looking for one of these, a false break, or we're looking for a bounce off that area or off this area. And once we get that bounce, we're then looking for a confirmation, which becomes a higher low in this case, or a lower high in, let's say, that case there. Not always tradable. And that was the frustrating part about the Aussie this week. It just wouldn't give me the setup that I needed. So as far as the euro is concerned, I would leave that alone right now because I don't have a clear direction on that. But it to me gives you a good example and a good overview of exactly what I'll be looking for throughout the week. And it'll be for the euro to go either to here or to here, and then give me a higher low or a lower high based on where it lands. Pound US dollar, now this is in awful trouble. The cable,
Cheers,
my
Anthony.
goodness,
See you
mate.
later. So, mate, I might just jump in a couple of things of interest. I got a link from Alexis, which
Mhm.
talks about the Australian job numbers. And
Yep.
she says that to go on the job numbers, you've got to have lost your job, be getting unemployment and be looking for work. And if you're getting unemployment and not looking for work, they don't count you. And because the schools are all closed and all the mums are all at home looking after their kids, the real unemployment rate in Australia is over 10%. They're just not counting them because they're not looking for work because they're looking after their kids because the schools are closed. That was what was going on in the background of those numbers.
And I wouldn't disagree with that for 1 second, but I also would say that that's pertinent for the rest of the world.
Look, while it may be they're saying that if the woman who were staying at home looking after kids were counted as unemployed, unemployment in Australia would be just 10.5%, the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression. Now, while that, I'm going to suggest to you that that's not where New Zealand is right now. It will be when the job seeker benefit runs out, right? We're in a different situation in New Zealand. And again, in New Zealand, if my wife loses her job, she doesn't count because I earn more than $35,000 a year. She can't apply for benefits. I don't count her. I'm like, all right, brilliant, fantastic.
Yeah, same,
Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah,
So
you've got no
they
hope.
certainly create new ways of measuring this stuff. That means, comparing rates to the Great Depression, when if you're unemployed, you're unemployed. It's a bit bagoo. There was another reason I jumped in. I wanted to say goodbye to Ainsley. She's run off to put the girls to bed. I can't remember. Sorry, as I'm getting older, my
You're not even 3/4 of the way here yet, mate. Come on. and I'm worse.
mate.
What show are we on?
What are we doing? What are these pictures? Oh, look, I've got to tell you this. I don't do these things, I'm going to interrupt you. We'll be back to this. I don't do these things. People forward you all this funny stuff. And I just don't get into that kind of stuff. I don't forward stuff, and I don't post stuff on my Facebook that you've got other people have got other post, or they're going to have bad luck and go. I don't do that kind of stuff. But I just got a message, and it's just a forward, it's just a joke, and it said that Peter was really finding lockdown really, really boring. I wasn't quite sure what to do. So on Saturdays, he started sending his neighbour flowers with a note saying, "I miss you." And then he goes and sits on the deck and listens to him try to explain it to his wife for the weekend. I thought it was.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I thought it was funny.
That's
Anyway,
a mate of
let's
yours, right?
No, I don't know who would do that, but someone forwarded it to me. I don't know why. I never reply and I never forward these things on. I get about 50 or 60 of them a day. It's just they just come rolling in from different people I know. And I don't even, all the videos, I don't even watch the videos. I don't even, I just, there's more stuff in the
No, I
guys,
don't
fair
know.
enough,
Well,
and move on.
how many hours are there in a day? I don't know where they have the
I don't
time to
know,
do this. I've got no idea.
I guess, Jeff, did you hear the unemployment number? They've got, some people have got some time at the moment.
Well, yeah.
Possibly, like
There you go.
we're really lucky. I mean, the bamboo keeps growing, Jeff, and the markets keep going. And, we've been trying to do a lot of extra content from Accidents to Wales. So we've been really busy. And the lockdown for me, last night's the first night after I put the kids to bed. I haven't come back to the office since I got back from Malaysia. And we've been really busy. And, it's, I think in a way it's a lot easier to do lockdown like that. I think if I'd done lockdown with nothing to do, I might have found it a lot tougher than I did, mate. Mate, let's
look, very,
do some more
very
chart
grateful
stuff.
for decisions that we've made to put us in this position. And look, not everybody is. That's absolutely true. And I absolutely feel for them.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah, look, it's terrible, mate. I still remember when we first went on this journey that before I started heading into Accidents to Wealth and Trading Education, when Roy first asked me, the only thing I did was get in a plane and fly to Sydney and meet with you and have a beer and talk about whether you were going to come and help. And mate, the good old days, aren't they? I'm pleased you came and joined us in this thing. We were both a bit younger, but
I think I was a lot
times.
younger than, to be fair. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yes.
no complaints this end. And may there be many, many years more of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, mate. Let's get back onto these charts, eh?
Right. So, speaking of the structures that I was and giving you the explanation that I just did, here's a very clear false break of one of those particular structures. In this case, that was a triangle. You can go back to the weekly chart. There it is there. So here's what's happened. We've come back inside that triangle right now. And if you narrow that down to a daily chart, we've also broken out of that bottom one more time. What am I expecting? Can I trade this is the question. And I'm sure all of you are wondering, what do I do next? Well, nothing right now, but here's what's happened. We've broken the bottom of that range. And if we've broken the bottom of that range, let's look what happened last time we did that. We went a truckload of pips down to the bottom side before we came back. That could very well happen again. Did we get a signal to trade this short at that time? No, but I think if you go back to, I think PH was talking about this, but certainly in the recent, maybe not in this show. Look, I get so lost in the shows that I'm in these days. I'm not sure where we are. But if you look at this breakout, it's very decisive and full of running. And 1, 2, 3, 4. My goodness, how strong is this crash? That's an absolute crash. It'd be very, very difficult to trade that long right now. I'd have to say that. But any little pullback maybe gets you into the short. But here's something to think about. If you were to place a long entry there and you put your stop loss there, what would happen? Well, you wouldn't be taken into the trade. But if you left the position on, you would get taken into the trade there. And then you get a nice little ride up to here and up to here and up to here. And it gives you plenty of time to take profit. And even though that didn't go to the top of your structure, gee whiz, if you didn't make money out of that, something's wrong. We're on a daily chart here, right? So that's the kind of thing I'm suggesting to you right now with that decisive break here. If you were to place a long order above that candle and this happened again, so what? Doesn't matter. And then on the way back, it actually did go to there. Be okay, wouldn't it? So what I'm saying is the chances of this going short tomorrow are extremely high. This is pound US dollar, right? But if it doesn't, and it comes back to here, then all of this strength here has now turned around and gone somewhere else. And if I go a little bit tighter and go into the 4-hour chart, look at the market structure that I've got there. Top to bottom, bottom to top to bottom, didn't go to the top, but we've now broken to the low side. So to my mind, if we actually come back into this area here, we're going there. Not saying we're going there tomorrow or this week or anytime soon, but that's where we're going, in my humble opinion. So that makes it more than credible if I were to place a long order there and my stop under here, which is what the daily chart's telling me. I reckon there's a trade in that. I'll leave you with that prospect, frankly. There's been a lot of talk about Aussie dollar today, and thank you, Lexi, for posting in that analysis from whomever about the Aussie job numbers. Pardon me. I have got this thing about the Aussie that was absolutely fractured by, pardon me, for want of a better word, a trade war situation between Scott Morrison and Xi Jinping. I've got to say, if I put Scott Morrison in the ring with Xi Jinping on an economic basis, Scott Morrison runs a very poor second. And for that reason, the Aussie dollar had to turn around at that point, and that's exactly what we saw during the week. Prior to that, I was very much a fan of Aussie dollar coming down to the monthly pivot before it went to this level. That level right there is around about 67.20 area, something like that. I'm still a fan, so I haven't written off the Aussie dollar like a lot of my friends and trading people have. So I'm just waiting for this to hit the monthly pivot, and then I'm back in bullish territory. What makes me think that can be tradable? Well, if we have a look again at this range that I've got, we've got a rectangle sitting here that is very, very clear. Well, in my book, it's very, very clear. And just about everybody who's analysing Aussie dollar at the moment has got exactly this on their chart. So let's go back to, where was I? Where did I start? Here. Potential false break coming back into here. Remember, we get false breaks and they go back to the top. We get them frequently, not only on pound dollar, but euro dollar, false break up here, back to the short side. We're in exactly the same position on Aussie dollar, in my humble opinion. So whilst everybody is thinking short Aussie dollar, I was too, but only to the monthly pivot. And as I said, that little tiff between Scott Morrison and Xi Jinping can only end in one way, and that won't be in Scott Morrison's favour. But I think that can only be a short-term thing. I think it's a whole lot of fluff around, nothing that's going to come of it, because they both need each other. They need one like the other needs, well, sunshine like needs rain, etc., for something to grow. And I don't think that will be lost with either of those guys. Although, as I said before, if you go into a battle with Scott Morrison versus Xi Jinping, there's only going to be one winner, and that's going to drive the Aussie down. But I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's as serious as the press would make it out to be. And I absolutely expect this to be a false break. Would I like to trade it down to the monthly pivot? Absolutely. And that's what I've been trying to do for the whole week last week, but just couldn't find a way in. But as soon as it hits that monthly pivot and gets back into this range, by jingo, I'm off to the races. I'm a massive fan of Aussie dollar back up to that 67.15 or 20 level, whatever it was. Then we can look, I think, for a big turnaround, but not until that happens. I'm still of the opinion this can very much be a V-shaped recovery. We've all talked about that quite frequently. You could even go back up to the 70 area, but I'm backing it up to here. Let me look at that level again, 67.25. So if I get the opportunity to trade, that's exactly what I'll do this week. As I said, God defend New Zealand. And this was very much a case 2 weeks ago. And I think I gave you guys this in this particular show, where we had this candle here. And I said this was eminently tradable. In fact, on Monday morning, I'll wake up and place that trade, which I did. That's been in the market now for 2 weeks on the weekly chart. I think we've hit TP1, but this is not my trading account, so I'm not exactly sure. I know I'm in this trade for some other reason, but this is the reason that I said, I'm sure I said this in this show 2 weeks ago. Trade that bar there short on Monday morning, and now looking to come home to roost. I've got absolutely no reason to think that won't continue to be the case, but we do have a support level here around about that 59-cent mark. So if we get through that, this could be a super trade. There's another 500, 600 pips available on that if we can stay in.
Very clear effort by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand to talk the New Zealand dollar down. Very clear.
Oh,
The
look,
languaging, everything they said. There was
yeah,
only
it
one
was-
goal there.
Yeah,
They didn't even mean it.
extremely dovish, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's no negative rates coming in New Zealand, in my opinion. They just try to talk the currency down, and good on them. And you know, it's one thing New Zealand's done really well on this. People will talk about the recovery and of coronavirus, and really we were very lucky because we did a really good job for 6 weeks. We did a terrible job for 6 weeks before that. It was embarrassingly bad in New Zealand. Coronavirus should never have been here in the way it was here. But what they have done, the Reserve Bank and the government, they have brought parties to the table. They brought the banks in and had the banks work with them to loan. So the Reserve Bank has done an agreement with banks to allow them to lend more money than normal. They've reduced the loan to value cap rates on mortgages, but also for the money that banks have got to hold in reserve for. Yeah, they've actually said to the banks, well, you've got to keep this much money in reserve for rainy days. Well, here's the rainy day, guys. Go and lend it.
Wow.
And they've been fighting the banks for the last 2 years about you've got to have money put away. You've got to have more money put away and more money put away. And they just said, off you go, guys. Get it out there. Same with you want to borrow money on a house in New Zealand at the moment. There's no longer a government forced minimum deposit.
So what? No LVR, full stop.
I think they're taking it away. Yeah, they're taking it away.
Wow,
And
that's
look,
amazing.
what they've done.
I'll be over.
Job
I'll be over on Monday.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's a long swim. That's how you're getting here.
Yeah, that's true.
But what they have done a really good job on is that they've coordinated a lot of different parties, and the Reserve Bank, the finance minister, the banking sector. They've tried to work quite hard with the business sector. The government and the business sector are not natural bed parties at the moment in New Zealand, but they really have tried to work with different organisations. And the Reserve Bank, there is no doubt the budget came out on Thursday, and Friday the Reserve Bank just tried to slap the dollar back down. And when you're in these times, you know, Donald is not succeeding in that. So all of a sudden he likes to hike the mighty US dollar. That is just bad economics. A lower dollar makes your exports cheaper overseas, and it makes crap coming in more expensive to buy. And when you're in bad times, you want your stuff cheaper overseas and people paying more for stuff coming in. So the price of cars and ovens and microwaves are going up, but the price of lamb overseas is going down. And that's what New Zealand needs badly.
At the end of the day, that was his mantra. I mean, that's what he went in on.
Well, look, he's actually, to be fair to him, and I won't get off track.
He kind of lost the plot a little bit along the way, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And look, well, at the end of the day, one thing he's really good at is working out that he can't have what he wants, so he'll say he wants something else, and he's brilliant at it. Look, one thing about it is his ability to tell half a truth and build a lie is our reply to coronavirus has saved the lives of thousands of Americans. Well, it has. It's also killed 100,000 of them. But not even that. I mean, they actually have done some stuff, right? So he can say, I've saved thousands of Americans because I've done some stuff. So less people have died than would have. That's completely true what he says. It's just ridiculous because he's done such a poor job that lots of Americans have died, and he just leaves that part out. He just doesn't say that. And honestly, it's a concern to me because it's a global thing now. Politicians have worked out there's enough. Excuse me, guys, what I'm about to say. But politicians and democracies have worked out there's enough dumb people in the world that if they just say what they want people to believe, people will believe it and vote them back in. The New Zealand government, we went hard and early. We did not go early. It's just bullshit, and they just the whole country just buys into it and doesn't question it. And we're seeing more and more of this, where they're just telling us. They just, in business language, they're just framing us and reframing us, and they're telling us what they want us to know. And I digress a long way from this, Chad. Anyway, I thought it was really nice to see the Reserve Bank of New Zealand come up and say exactly the right thing at the right time. And it looked like there's a very coordinated approach between the New Zealand government and the Reserve Bank in dealing with this. And it has been the whole way through on policy. They've been very clear they're working together to deal with this, and it's a nice sign. It's one of the real positives to come out of this in New Zealand for me is how much different organisations have worked together for this. Back to you in the charts, buddy. I don't mean to hold us up any longer. We started really late.
No, it's okay. That's really interesting, because I thought that was a very, very structured statement. And I know all RB Reserve Bank governors have structured statements, but I agree with that. That was, and we even had a little bit of conversation about that on Skype with a couple of guys. And I've rarely seen something as dovish as that, I've got to say.
Yeah, he was. He didn't muck around, did he?
No.
Good on him. Look, I haven't seen that. Thanks, mate. I haven't seen the stuff from Boris on Trump. And look, again, one thing I do want to do, we have lost a lot of time at the start. Yeah, it has. Honestly, it's great entertainment. Jeff, what have we got left to go through, buddy?
Yeah, no, not much, mate. No, really,
okay,
not much.
Let's get you through that before we hold these good people up too much longer. We've been at this for a while tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's really nothing I suggest that you guys should trade, except if you have a look at this bar right here on US dollar on the weekly chart, and you compare it to this bar right here, New Zealand dollar Kiwi. New Zealand dollar, US dollar on the weekly chart of 2 weeks ago. I'll change it one more time for you, right? There's the New Zealand dollar, US dollar weekly bar chart, candle chart. 2 weeks ago, that bar there. Here's the US dollar yen candle 2 weeks down the track. Guess what I'm doing tomorrow morning? I'm placing an order short underneath this bar here, and I'm going to put my stop just above that bar right there, the same bar. I'll give you one more time. Kiwi, US dollar, weekly chart 2 weeks ago. US dollar, yen, weekly chart right now. That's the one I'll leave you with, mate.
Cheers, mate. You're slightly lagged, so they're not quite seeing that quite right. But what we are seeing here is the high test bar and the opportunity to get short.
It's not just the high test bar, mate. Everyone goes with high test bar bearish candle.
Yeah.
I go with high test bar bullish candle, and I think that's a very, very interesting distinction. White bar.
Show us the Kiwi again, please, Jeff.
Sure. This one.
Yep.
Means a lot to me. I think it's an incredible distinction.
Yeah. High test bar followed by bullish bar, and you're selling the bottom of the bullish bar, right?
Yep.
Classic slingshot, Jeffrey. Classic slingshot.
Mm.
But I've got a couple of things I'd like to do before we move along, guys. And brilliant. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to talk to you guys about a couple of things. If you look, oh gosh, that's a bit much. Gosh, a couple of things I'd like to talk about.
Panavision.
Yeah. If you there's even in high def, I think. Look, we should definitely get rid of that. I think we might go back to any of your charts, mate. I actually was working on my desktop today, so I wasn't expecting to be on camera, or I would have put on some kind of shirt as opposed to a t-shirt. What was I going to say? Two things, guys. Two things I want to talk about today, which I think are quite important. That'll do, mate. Cheers. Look, if you want to watch Jeff and Ash, their show's amazing. They are doing the UK session live around 3 o'clock on Singapore afternoons, and the US session live about 9. It's $35 a month, $34.95 a month, and you just get lots and lots of stuff. And Ash was telling me that in the US session, I was talking to Ash earlier on today, and he was saying in the US session last week, they just smashed it. guys, it's a great investment. I really love the attitude. I love the fact that I'm prepared to come and do stuff for free. And I really encourage you guys to support them. And, you know, at $35 a month on almost any account, it's just one winner. You know, it's not much more than one winner to get involved. The other thing I do want to talk to you guys about is we've got one slot left for Julian. And he's going to take 4 people at a time. The commitment is 1 month at a time. We think 3 months is optimum for it. I think, you know, I don't think he would like people to stay any longer than that. I think he'll encourage you not to unless you really feel you have to. If you do 1 month and you don't like it, one of the reasons we're not charging for 3 months, we're charging for 1 month at a time, so you can commit and work out whether it's for you, because it is going to be a little bit confronting, a little bit challenging. And he's got an amazing ability, Julian, too. Sometimes when I'm coaching, I'm quite direct, and it's quite direct. Julian has a way to be very nice about it, and I must do some playback on the videos, but he's very, very good at having you work out for yourself that it's not what you're doing isn't quite good enough and you should be doing a little bit better. And the stuff he's done in the last, I've been sitting on the pilot program of his for the last month, and it's been awesome. And look, if you want to do something different, which just, you know, Julian shares a bit about how he trades and his strategies and his approaches, but he does a huge amount more than that. And look, I've been mentored by the guy for a long time, and I thought the last month was as good as I've ever seen. And Paul Hutton spoke about it earlier. The other person that was involved sent us a big testimonial on it today. I don't think you'll find better. It's $1,250 a month. Your commitment is 1 month, and if you want to stay, pay again. If you don't want to stay, that's cool. But I don't think you'll find better. At the end of the day, we're talking about a 30-year veteran of institutional trading, a man who can make $1 million in a day for his company, a guy who runs a trading desk where $1 billion a month goes through it. And he's prepared to spend an hour a week with you as a group of 4. It'll be a group of 4. I may sit in that occasionally for another purpose to do with his trade calls. I'd like to just hang around with what he's doing so I can help him with that. But there'll be 4 people contributing to that as we go along. And then you get a one-to-one session with him as well. And honestly, if we took Julian to the markets as a one-to-one trading coach, jump out of your email, buddy, because that's coming up. Don't share that, buddy. Let me just get you out of there. Thank you, bud. I'm going to just grab the screen in case. Look, if we took Julian to markets and we asked people for $1,000 for an hour one-to-one with Julian, we would have no trouble getting people to take that. Never mind the 4 hours. The hour one-to-one with him is a pretty special thing. I do encourage you not to let it go, and you know, to take the opportunity while he has the time. It's been great that both Justin and Julian, I really want to acknowledge them when they've had a little bit more time with the way things have been. That one of the things they've done is immediately give them back, and I think they deserve a huge amount of credit for it and a huge amount of support for it. So don't miss out. If you want the spot, grab the spot and you know, take full advantage of it. If you're on the YouTube and you're not one of the Atkins 12th clients, it's not available to you right now, but you know, we'll talk to Julian some more as life goes on. The message from me is really simple. I see the Atkins 12 people on Wednesday night at 6:30. I think I'll be talking a little bit about gold and about that particular chart and the way it's being read. Might talk a little bit about that front bar on the oil as well. We're talking about a few other things. I think about a few products that are coming up, some stuff we're looking to launch in the next few weeks. We'll get that out to you. Some of it will come out in the newsletter today. I think we've got a date for the flow. Mikey's going to do the flow. We've got Orlando coming back in June to do a 3-hour session as well. We've got Paul Hutton next week doing a recap of the Wave Rider and the cyclicity indicator. We think that might oversell. We might be over. It's Paul Hutton's one's free. Actually, the flow will be free and Orlando will be free. All part of the COVID-19 response from us about trying to share as much stuff as we possibly can. I'll be on Wednesday. That'll be free as well. Lots and lots of stuff, guys. Make sure you spend as much time as you possibly can. Become better traders. And here's my challenge for you for the week, guys. Be rigorous with yourself. Do your best. And when you're trading your strategy to the best you can trade it, we can work out how to make you better. If you're trading it below the best you can trade it, the first thing you've got to do is start trading it to the best you can trade it. So skip that step for us. trade as well as you can possibly trade, so we've got something to work with and move you guys forward. We remain incredibly committed, and we've had some long discussions in the last few days about how we're going to continue to do this, how we're going to continue to improve and help you guys to improve, and we continue to be completely committed to making you guys the best trader we possibly can. Jeff, thank you very much for your input and company tonight. It's been great to have you along and have a chat, mate.
Always happy, mate.
Cheers, mate. Ainsley, Julian, Paul Hutton, I think all might have gone at this stage to get on with different stuff for this evening. Thank you very much. And most importantly, guys, thanks for being with us. A lot of trouble at the start. We appreciate your patience. No one gave us a hard time. We are really pleased we got it sorted out and we could run a show today. I do apologise for the delay and the fact we're running a bit later than we normally would be. Have a good night. Go and have some dinner with your kids. Give them a kiss. Whatever you, give them a hug. Whatever you do, tell them good night. And we'll see you guys later in the week. Thanks very much for joining us. Cheers, guys. Oh, that's what I'm trying to do it all.